The United States Constitution is a foundational document to the legal framework in the U.S. It was adopted on September 17th, 1787. Lays out the tricameral bodies of the U.S. government, lays out that the legislative branch, which is our Congress and U.S. House of Representatives, the executive branch, which is the president, his cabinet, and organizations like the Department of Justice, etc. The judiciary branch is our Supreme Court. The United States Constitution established a federal system of government. What that means is that it reserves the significant rights for the individual states, but each state had to ratify the Constitution before it was actually adopted. So basically, those things which are explicitly in the Constitution belong to the federal government system, and those that are not specifically delineated in the Constitution revert back to the states. The Constitution has been the subject of a great deal of debate even before its inception. If you go out to this website, the Avalon Project at Yale School, you'll see the debates on the Federal Convention of 1787, and it's actually an amazing set of documents to read and understand. All of the anguish and the questioning and pulling together of different types of different positions into one body to establish the Constitution. But even after writing a fantastic document, there were some things that were left out, and there was a lot of argument among the delegates as to the addition of some of these other rights. So the first 10 amendments to the Congress were adopted in 1789, and they're collectively called our Bill of Rights. Let's look at each one of these. The First Amendment is the freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, and freedom of petition. These are things that you see and hear about in the news virtually every day. As the Second Amendment, the right of states in keeping and maintaining militias and the right of individuals to possess firearms. A lot of controversy over that amendment. The Third Amendment, you don't hear about much, but if you search hard enough, you can find cases that pertain to the Third Amendment. Prohibits the government from using private houses as quarters for soldiers during peacetime without the consent of the owners. The Fourth Amendment, which we're looking at here, protects against searches, arrests, seizures, or property without a specific warrant or probable cause. The Fifth Amendment forbids trial for a major crime except after indictment by a grand jury, prohibits double jeopardy except in certain limited circumstances, and forbids punishment without due process. It also provides that an accused person may not be compelled to testify against himself. You heard these a lot in trials where individuals would take the Fifth Amendment so not to incriminate themselves in trial. The Sixth Amendment guarantees the right to a speedy trial, a right to counsel, a right to trial by jury, and due process. The Seventh Amendment assures trial by jury from civil actions. The Eighth Amendment forbids excessive fines and bails and cruel and unusual punishment. And the Ninth Amendment designates that rights enumerated in the Constitution are all not inclusive, and those not specifically identified are retained elsewhere by the people. The 10th Amendment indicates that the powers that the Constitution does not delegate to the United States and does not prohibit to the states from exercising are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. So I'd like to take an in-depth look at the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. Now, we'll look at the Fourth Amendment in both its cyber and non-cyber perspectives, but it certainly is something that has a very definite cyber impact to you, depending on how you react to requests from law enforcement for evidence. Anyway, we'll look at this and break it down and get a better understanding of probably one of the more complex amendments in the Constitution.